Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the moderator of the next session, Anita Orbán.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with us on the last panel on Harvard stage for today. We will discuss energy without borders, whether integration is a key to energy security and resilience. But before we go into the panel, let me welcome Mr. Pavel Cirani, who is the Deputy Chairman of ČEZ, who will give us a keynote address about how we can advance energy security in Europe. Pavel, the stage is yours.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to speak here at this GLOBSEC summit on the topic of European integration as a way of lasting energy security and resilience. It is a really topic close to my heart because I believe that the integration is really the solution to affordable, secure, and reliable energy supply, contrary to the first instinct that we saw after the crisis started after the full-scope invasion of Russia to Ukraine. Because energy sector has the power and the responsibility to contribute to long-term security and prosperity of Europe by building a resilient, sustainable, and affordable energy system. I believe that to succeed, we need to focus on 4 key areas. Number 1, technology diversification while maintaining the single European market. Strong connection and effective cooperation across the EU. 3, partnership beyond the EU. And last but not least, strong industrial strategy. I'll touch upon each of those points briefly. The Czech and the European energy system is changing rapidly. On the supply side, fossil fuels, especially coal, will play a decreasing role, and that is regardless of the potential Green Deal modifications. On the demand side, electrification will grow, driven by transport, heating, and digital infrastructure like data centers and artificial intelligence. Europe must therefore secure its energy future by adopting a diverse mix of zero-emission technologies, including nuclear and SMRs, small modular reactors. Building a diversified energy system is both a matter of security and economic necessity. If we want to achieve safe, affordable, and clean energy for the next decades, we must use all available technologies, and that is including nuclear, all while maintaining the single European market. And I have to say, I don't think we are doing it fast enough today. We need to speed up the rollout of nuclear and continue with the rollout of solar and wind power. By introducing or strengthening the government-backed long-term contracts, such as CFDs, we also need effective technology-neutral acceleration zones to simplify permitting procedures. Finally, we should establish a robust market for long-term PPA customer contracts, including the solution to related issues such as margining and credit risk mitigation. And ideally, all these markets being really pan-European, unified across the European countries, so maintaining the single European market. And to maintain the required level of security of supply, we also need sufficient capacity of flexible sources, including gas power plants and battery storage. However, the development of flexible capacities in Czechia and also in some other countries is slowed down by the lack of capacity markets. Again, a new type of market. It would be desirable to bring capacity markets up to the level of standard markets, so there would be no need for individual notification, and we would also be able to unify them across the EU. Again, establish them as one of the part of the unified market. Finally, we need to invest in distribution and transmission grids while managing the current capacity smarter. The EU must remove unnecessary internal barriers, streamline permitting procedures, key obstacles such as lengthy approval for capacity markets, unequal treatment of nuclear energy, and overly complex rules for low-carbon hydrogen must be eliminated as quickly as possible. Moreover, a European unified approach to licensing, permitting, and financing new nuclear, including small modular reactors, is needed. Now, efficient single European energy market will only work if EU regions are physically well connected and cooperating. A well-connected Europe is more secure Europe with affordable energy costs for consumers. Recent events in Spain have demonstrated the critical importance of cross-border energy infrastructure for ensuring security of supply in a dynamic energy environment. Strong cross-border connections help balance supply and demand even in the events of local disruptions, boosting the resilience of the grid. Higher cross-border capacities maximize the potential of renewable across Europe. They enable the flow of affordable green electricity from countries with better natural conditions to those with less abundant resources, and that benefits all. We must therefore scale up the investments in energy infrastructure, strengthening both the transmission and distribution networks, expanding the cross-border connections, and addressing internal bottlenecks within member states. To make this happen, I believe we need a strategic plan for pan-European backbone network, better coordination between EU member states, and simpler permitting procedures. Now, at the same time, true partnership means loyalty to allies and respect to their sovereign decisions that lead to the agreed goals. We must work together, but without creating the unnecessary obstacles. While European energy cooperation is essential for our collective security, it must never impose inefficient solutions under the name of protecting European industry. Cooperation must drive progress, not tie hands. Strategic autonomy for Europe must not lead to isolation. To achieve our ambitious goals, we must work with partners beyond EU. Europe must achieve greater autonomy to reduce its vulnerability to external shocks. Our dependence on imported fossil fuels exposes us to price volatility, supply insecurity, and geopolitical pressure. Reducing dependence is therefore essential. However, strategic autonomy does not mean isolation. Strategic autonomy means building our domestic capabilities while remaining open to the world. We must collaborate with trusted global partners around the developed world who bring advanced technologies and experience in key areas such as nuclear or batteries. Relying solely on internal EU supply chains risk higher costs, slower deployment of the new technologies, and missed opportunities for innovation. We, therefore, as Europeans, need a global network of reliable partners. Only then we can overcome limited access to key resources like LNG and the critical raw materials that we have in Europe. At the same time, Europe needs to build diverse and resilient supply chains for key technologies such as batteries, electrolyzers, SMRs. These partnerships will help Europe stay competitive. Europe's success depends on the ability to complete projects on time, within budget and at the required quality. Choosing reliable partners who can guarantee timelines, budgets, and quality is essential and must not be limited to EU borders. Finally, clean energy is not just about energy. It is a strategic industrial opportunity. The upcoming development of nuclear energy must be leveraged to benefit the entire economy. I'd like to give the example of our collaboration with Rolls-Royce on SMR development, which I believe is a good example of how strategic partnerships can drive innovation, support industrial capabilities, and create high-value added jobs. However, current EU industrial system is way complex. Long permitting procedures, excessive bureaucracy, and difficult access to public support, as well as financial markets, discourages investors and slow down development. To stay competitive and avoid falling behind global rivals, especially China and the US, we must simplify these and ensure transparent, predictable regulation. Europe must respond decisively and shift from a restrictive regulatory mindset to proactive industrial policy. I think the comparison between the Inflation Reduction Act and the very restrictive regulation that we have in Europe is striking. Similar to the US, Europe needs to adopt a straightforward system of targeted measures and financial incentives which will strengthen Europe manufacturing and support investments in new technologies. Europe industry must succeed through innovation, quality and efficiency, and not through protectionism and over-regulation. Only then we can create true European champions capable of competing on the global stage and in the energy sector, bringing the so much needed affordable, competitive, sustainable, and secure energy supply. Thank you for your attention.
Pavel, thank you so much for setting the stage for us. And let me take this opportunity as a member of the board of GLOBSEC to thank ČEZ for your support, being ČEZ our champion partner. So you literally help us to keep the lights on. So thank you very much, Pavel.
My pleasure.
And let me greet and welcome on stage our fellow panelists in the order of Petr Hladík, Martin Hojsík, Cristian Bușoi, and Abdulla Balalaa. Thank you all for joining us. And I would use your very last sentence, Pavel, about the triangle of energy policy: competitive, secure, and sustainable. And would like to turn to you, Petr. We are in Prague, Czechia. And what are the environmental considerations of the Czech energy policy?
Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome here in Prague. First of all, I have to say that what is our goal? Our goal is to ensure affordable energy prices and robust energy security for the Czechia, for the EU themselves. The second question is how? The first of all, the energy savings, the renewable sources, the domestic green production, and also the new nuclear reactions. This, for my point of view, the journey to achieve this goal.
Super, thank you, Petr. And let me remind the audience that please ask your questions also during the panel. If you just signal, and we will look out, as well as on Slido, which you already have experienced. So, Petr, let me connect with your fellow countryman, Martin, who is now in the European Parliament, an MEP. And the cross-border integration is an evergreen topic. How can the EU accelerate cross-border energy infrastructure? And the $1 million question, $1 million question, who is going to pay for it?
I'll have to start by correcting you. I'm from Slovakia, not Czech.
Apologies.
That's fine. I'm quoting.
That's, you caught me here.
But I'm from the Moravian side, so
no,
we are really close. Yeah?
We are closer.
Okay, so we have fellow Central Europeans here.
Exactly.
Super.
Now, I think what we really need to start doing is looking at how to take down lots of the barriers that we put ahead of businesses fully utilizing the business opportunity that decarbonization is. This is, as Werner Hoyer said when he was still the president of the EIB, this is the largest business opportunity of our times. What we forgot, when we looked at it from a climate perspective, we forgot to look at it also from a security perspective, because, you know, as Putin's regime showed us, there is one, but also we didn't utilize the business opportunity. And hearing the keynote, lots of the things are about making sure that we reduce the barriers that are put up on the member state level. I think this is what the recent IMF report showed, that basically the barriers put up by the member states are equal to 40% tariff on the products and 120% tariff on the services. So we don't actually need the Trump administration to give us tariffs. We're doing it ourselves, to ourselves. And this is something which is indeed hindering the European businesses from innovating, performing, but coming up with new solutions. And I think this is what we need to do as one of the important tasks. It's not taking public out of the question and not involving them in permitting. But it's really lots of the silly gold-plating things, like in Slovakia, reporting to customs that the green electricity from your rooftop was actually made in Slovakia. That's nonsense. And second, working really to focus on the backbones, so the highways of electricity grids, and creating the right regulatory framework to spur innovation and upcoming development of renewables and all the carbon neutral technologies.
Thank you, Martin. I really like the statistics which you quoted, which when I heard it the first time, I was absolutely shocked. So it's a really good research, whoever came out with that. But what you said, I think it's music to the ear of a member state. This is what we want to hear, right? Decreasing the barriers and burdens of member states. So, Cristian, how do you see the political risk and challenges of further integration?
My country, Romania, is strongly supporting further integration, deeper energy integration within the European Union. And clearly, the question that you asked before about increasing the interconnections is also, this issue is also vital for Romania, as not only Romania, but several countries from Central and Eastern Europe sometimes face increase of electricity prices, of course, spot electricity prices, because it's not fully integrated with the west and the north of European Union. On the other hand, there are different realities, different challenges, different starting points. I'm not only the State Secretary responsible for international European affairs, but I was 16 years member of European Parliament. And during between 2019 and 2024, I had the privilege to be the president of the Industry and Energy Committee in very challenging times. And I understood that when there is a pressure, when there is a crisis of high prices in electricity, the member states, the countries are thinking first for their own needs. And it's normal to be like this. Of course, there is a solidarity, and now the solidarity is higher in the new realities. There is the integration, the interconnections, but still there are different realities. So we need to take this into account to understand that we need a fair transition, an inclusive transition. We need to understand that some member states need and decided to continue to use the nuclear energy. It's not maybe considered renewable, but it's a stable, clean resource and source of electricity. There is also potential for natural gas. Romania would like and advocates at the EU level the need to consider natural gas as a transition fuel, because we need to stabilize the system. And we have this project, Neptune Deep, that will double the production in Romania, additionally 10 billion cubic meters, and this could be a provider of energy security, at least in the region. Yes. And taking into account all these particularities, I believe that the risks that you mentioned could be mitigated easier.
Super. We will return to Neptune, and good that you also mentioned nuclear. I would like to promote a side session which we are having tomorrow morning about the nuclear energy use in Central Europe. So if you haven't heard about it and would like to join, then just let the organizers know. Your Excellency, it must be fascinating for you to listen to this European discussion of integration, member state, consideration, solidarity, or national sovereignty. But give us your view on the United Arab Emirates. What's your energy and sustainability policy? What are your long-term considerations and visions for your country?
Thank you. I think to start with, the Europeans you're talking about are our partners. The UAE policy around energy and sustainability is actually shaped by different factors, such as long-term, forward-looking, based on partnerships, and it's wrapped with respect to the climate. So in respect to start with, I would say energy security is extremely important for us, and that was laid down in our future plans, such as the UAE strategy, the UAE energy strategy, and we were the first country in the region to announce its net zero plan in the Middle East and Northern Africa region. And that calls for things like diversifying the energy mix. As you know, today we are on our pathway to turn more than 30% of our energy mix by renewables by 2030. We have 4 nuclear plants that are up and running by now with 5.6 gigawatt. But not only that, climate came into the scene, and as you know, in December 2023, we hosted the COP, where partnerships with South-South partnerships were introduced. But not only that, there are hundreds of countries, member states signed on declarations for tripling the renewable energy and doubling the energy efficiency. And of course, there is a doubling or tripling the nuclear energy by 2050, signed by more than 135 countries. But again, the last element maybe I want to mention on this is something our keynote speaker mentioned, the strategic autonomy. The UAE is on its way to basically localize this industry instead of relying on external actors. A few weeks ago, we had an event called Make It in the Emirates, and it's fascinating when you walk in, along with thousands of people attending this event, and you see photovoltaic panel manufacturers in Khalifa Port Industrial Area in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, cabling companies that bidding today in interconnections projects in Europe. So these are more or less the most strategic elements that our energy and sustainability in the business and our strategy plans relies on.
Thank you, Abdulla. I really like the strategic autonomy that you mentioned and brought into the discussion. I don't know, Pavel, whether you want to comment on it, whether there are any strategic autonomy considerations in CEZ or the Czech energy policy. And one more question, if I may pose two to you immediately. We have a grid transition index in GLOBSEC, which we published last year the first time, which looks at all of Europe, all the European countries' grids' readiness for green transition. And neither Czechia, and by the way, Cristian, neither Romania comes out as really well prepared for the transition, and would be eager to hear your comment on that, as well as what CEZ is planning to do to prepare for the green transition.
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the strategic autonomy. I think strategic autonomy is something that we've been discussing and also as a society, and we have been working on as a company. I have to say that I think Czechia, together with CEZ, made a remarkable journey in the year 2022 from separating from the dependency on Russian fuel, both in oil and gas, nuclear fuel, as well as oil. But going basically from, in some areas, 100%, in some other areas, 50% dependency to basically zero. So I think it's possible, it's important, and it's a thing that needs to be done together by the governments and the companies. At the same time, we must not overdo it, like being open to innovations, being able to collaborate with companies from outside of your country or region is important, because otherwise you could hinder innovations. And that was my point, that you need to balance these two approaches, have strategic autonomy to the degree that makes sense to be secure, but at the same time collaborate with other countries and other regions in order to be innovative and cost competitive. Now, in terms of the grid index, I'm honestly surprised. I think our grid is well developed. We have been able to connect hundreds of thousands, or over 100,000 photovoltaic installations, mostly rooftop, but also large scale. We have more than 20,000 megawatt of new connections being able to be accommodated by the grid at this very moment. So I think the grid was well prepared, and now obviously we just have a new regulatory period starting next year, and that the period is a very pro-investment and pro-development setup, and we'll develop the grid further to accommodate all the new power plants that need to be built, among others because of, at this moment, we still depend 40% on coal production for heat and power.
Super. Then if you allow, then our expert colleagues would contact your colleagues. And for the 25 edition of the energy grid, we may have different factors or data points. So thank you for your comment. So let's do a poll now. We have one question prepared, which I would like to get asked on the screen. It's a really simple question. Yes or no? Thumb up or thumb down? Are you in favor of more integration? So I told Martin about this question in the speakers room. He didn't like it. He said it's not specific enough. How do you define integration? What kind of integration? But voila. I don't know whether it's one vote One vote so far, who it is 100%, but please give us your views, because this panel is supposed to talk about, and we already preempted, we call the panel key to integration is key to European energy security and resilience. So we are made a big assumption here. But so far, it seems that the audience agrees with us. We have two really good questions, by the way, on Slido. Okay, somebody is just either disagrees or wants to provoke a bit of a debate. We have really good two questions on Slido, but let me do one more round, and then we go to the Slido questions. So, Petr, back to you. Did the energy security considerations create a setback for the environmental agenda of Czechia after 2022?
Yeah. Thank you for the questions. I only a little bit recommend the Pavel, because what it's important that we are very well dependent on the import of energy. If I count the whole energy that we spent in the Czechia, we import 43% of energy, especially in the oil and especially in the gas. And the strategic goal, together with the environment, hand by hand, it's to go down with the import the energy. That's the reason why we need invest as a Czechia and as a Europe in the sources in Europe, in our country and Europe, especially in the kind of what Pavel mentioned. And some of them we discuss about the energy security comprehension in the army security, and I think it's the false conflict. Yeah, the decarbonization, the money for the decarbonization or money for the army security. It's not the conflict that we need to spend more money in army. It's true. Absolutely, in the case of the conflict, Russian against the Ukraine and the other world security reason, but the energy security, it's absolutely top in the context to be able to don't be dependent on the other parts, our partners.
Super, thank you, Petr. Can we get back the poll result, or it's already off the screen? Because I saw that the numbers were growing. And we will get it back, and then I can even tell you how many of you voted. 36 people voted, so 89% yes and 11% no. Martin, feel free to comment on the question. But you also discussed in your intervention the paradoxon or the tension between European versus member state. You mostly talked about the internal burdens and barriers and regulatory burdens and latent or covered custom. But can you talk about the considerations, balance between EU versus member states from geopolitical point of view or energy dependence point of view?
Yes, and I'm going to connect it to what Minister said, and that's basically what is seen as kind of the conflict between the environmental climate agenda and the security agenda. And I think this is completely false, because actually it's a really mutual objective. And that means a secure and prosperous future. And why it's essential is, when we look at the need and kind of discussions that we're going to invest 800 billion euros in our defense, if we at the same time keep on funding Putin's regime, just handing the keys straight away, like why would we actually keep on funding the aggression? Because in the first place, let's not forget, it was to a large extent us Europeans, through our dependency on Russian gas and oil, who paid for the invasion and the murders of innocent people in Ukraine. And I think this is something which we never shall forget. And this is something which, for me, is a very clear reason that, yes, we need to get rid of Russian oil and gas and work with the partners. The Romanian example is something where yes, we should limit the new deposits that we open, but this is something which is local, which can help us being strategically autonomous. It's just one of us, so to say. Working with trusted partners is going to be very important. And what we really need to do is also to look at this overall as an industry policy. And I'm happy that the minister and our partners from United Arab Emirates see it in the same way. Is okay. We need. There is opportunity of energy efficiency, but all the components need to be made somewhere. You need to have people who have the skills. So exactly looking at it as at a European level, with the cross-border movement of companies, that we don't have the obstacles from company from one side going to the other one. Other country doing things. When you have companies coming up with the innovative solutions in the construction sector, what they face is that they have to do the certification for, every member state, and in Germany often in every Bundesland. And I think this is where, indeed, the more is better. Now, the more integration in the level of always having to have everything prescribed on a detail, that might not work. It has to be clever, not keeping the people behind. And it's really important. What Cristian said is this is something which needs to work with the people, needs to create the opportunities for the businesses, and go straight for the goal of energy independence and decarbonization.
Super. Martin, I agree with you, and I think everybody would love to have abundant domestic energy, but we may not have enough in Europe. But let's see what Neptune, how much is Neptune? You said 10 BCM, right? Okay, and then you could tell us about how much will be domestic, how much will be put through. And it took quite a while to get Neptune, up and running. And if you may also comment on US LNG, right? US LNG's share has increased tremendously since 22. It's an alternative source. It's more liquid than global market. And what's the role of US LNG in the European energy mix?
Yes, Neptune Deep is a project that should be operational beginning of 2027. It's a potential of 100 BCM in total, so 10 BCM per year will double Romanian capacity. Some of it will be used in Romania because we have some plans related to gas plants that will replace coal, because we want to phase out coal as we are strongly committed to Green Deal and to climate objectives of European Union. Other will be available for the region or for any European country that will need gas, which will be exploited with the highest environmental standards in the world. Will be state-of-the-art newest technology, and the standards in European Union are among the highest in the world, so here it's also another benefit. On United States LNG, I really believe that the transatlantic partnership is vital, is extremely important, despite now the challenges related to the trade issues, and I'm sure that a trade war will be avoided and finally the situation will calm. In the energy sector is also extremely important. Without the LNG from United States, we are not able to decouple from Russian gas, from Russian natural gas. It would be impossible. Of course, we had additional input from Norway, from the north of Africa, from some of the countries in the Caspian region, but the most important input came from United States at a premium price, but it was important for our security and for helping the Ukrainian people. And I agree totally with Martin that we need to continue this pathway. We need to implement as soon as possible Repower EU. We need to phase out totally the imports from Russia. And here, of course, for the coming years, the LNG from United States is also extremely important. So investments in terminals, reverse flows, partnership with United States companies are extremely important. Also, because we decarbonize and we invest heavily in all Europe, Romania also in renewables, we need this partnership to be much more extended and stronger in the area of critical raw materials. Because we risk to replace dependency. Of course, they are not the same, but there was a dependency on Russian gas. Now there is a dependency on solar panels and other technologies that are coming from China. And the alliance related to critical raw materials with the United States is also vital for the future.
Okay, that would be also important if we can come back to this question. And I can see a bit of tension between political will as well as how the energy politics sees realities of dependency and sources. Mr. Balalaa, we have a really good question on Slido for you, which you will see on the screen. Your colleague mentioned that people, 50 different nationalities work in Barakah. While in the EU, says the questionnaire, it's hardly any other nationals would be welcome in NPPs. Can you share best practices and can you talk about Barakah?
Absolutely. I think the 4 nuclear reactors we have at the UAE is a reflection of latest nuclear technologies adopted, tested, and verified. Today, yes, we have more than 50 nationalities in there, but more important, we have established a consultancy subsidiary arm under our nuclear corporate in the UAE. And we are open for business, and we are already having contracts with member states to basically share the knowledge and the know-how that we've been working on since we established this program before we even dig the 4 plants on the ground.
Super, thank you very much. And good luck with the project. Is there any young leader in the audience? None, no young leaders. Young leaders are already preparing for the dinner. You here, okay, okay, so I saw that you're posing a question. Okay, so I just want to encourage all of our young leaders to pose questions and be vocal. So while you are thinking, let's get back to Slido, because Pavel, I think there's a really good question also on Slido for you, which most of the people liked. How to deal with cases where integration increases electricity prices for some regions, creating winners and losers. Do you see that in Czechia? Your grid is integrated with Poland, Slovakia, Austria, Germany, right?
Mostly with Germany and Slovakia, but Germany is really the price setter in the region, given it's 10 times bigger market than Czechia. Well, I think it's a good question. Now, and I don't have like a very simple answer to it. The one point is that by integrating, you create in general a better situation average for everyone. Obviously, there seem to be some there will be some losers. You know, Sweden already canceling connections. Number one, it will create price mechanisms in the regions such as Sweden to invest in more new generation, if it's possible. Obviously, given it's a lot of hydro and other things that may be limited, but by having these price mechanisms, you can create better signals to basically invest in new power plants in that region where the price will go up. Now, again, in Sweden, with Vattenfall being government-owned, the profit from these increased prices in the region will probably end up in the government pockets that could be redistributed to those who like in some kind of a social tariffs or social contributions to those who need it. So then the extra price increase in that region would not affect those who cannot afford it. So that's one way to think about it, but obviously needs to be discussed. Now, in general, we look at the European Union and the effects and the benefits for each country in the whole, right? It's like, so in some things, the situation is worse for you, but on average, the fact that you are part of the European market, it's a benefit for you in a number of other countries. There could be countries complaining that there is all this traffic going through them because it connects 2 regions and it's not being paid. There is electricity flowing, for example, through Czech Republic. We are building the networks between Germany and the Balkans, and then there is no charge for it. It's just like, but the overall benefits from the membership in the European Union is simply higher. So I think there must be a more global look at, or a comprehensive look at what are your benefits from being part of EU.
Thank you, and thank you for explaining the particular case which was referenced in the question. So, the gentleman, can you identify yourself? Just shoot.
Working? Yeah, it's
Super.
working. My name is Alexandru, I'm from Romania, and I'm part of the Global Young Leaders of GLOBSEC. Thank you for your remarks. The topic of the panel is energy security in Europe, and I have a question in the context of the Green Deal and all the discussions about the energy transition, the green transition. In the last 25 years, Europe decreased its greenhouse gas emissions with 33%. In the same time, China increased its greenhouse gas emissions with 253%. In this moment, China have 1/3 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. In the same time, European Union, the whole 27 countries, we have 6% of the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. How should we change the current way we are looking to the Green Deal in order to remain competitive in the current world? Thank you.
Wow, you are very well prepared. I put you on the spot, and you know these figures by heart. Amazing. Anyone who wants? Martin. I thought that it will be Martin and then Petr. Okay.
And it actually even connects and the first question that I think it's the second one on the 50%, because we are actually, the Commission recently came out. We are on the track to 50%. I think it's about the perspective we take on the different emissions and how we about the perspective we take on the whole issue. One thing is obviously that the level of industrialization in China was substantially lower. So per capita, we are being the bigger issue. Now, what I think we have to look at more is what China has been doing over the last years, and where we as a Europe, from industrial perspective, have been starting to lag behind. We used to have, the best industry producing wind power plants. We used to have the best industry, and actually the Chinese overcompeted us. To some extent was that we offshored lots of the industry, not because of environmental regulation, because the businesses went for a cheaper labor, and it was a very pragmatic strategy from the leadership of China to say we massively invest into renewables, into the whole green transition, and they out-invested us. And the question now is, how can we look at it from a global perspective and see that we maintain our security, and just like we looked at it in the 5G sector on the 5G security box, we need to have something similar in terms of the grids and the whole electric networks. But also, what are the strategic areas in technologies where Europe is still ahead, where we have the best opportunities, and utilize it. Because we have lots of, and I'm one of the founding members of the Clean Tech Friendship Group in the European Parliament, and we have lots of clean tech startups and scale-ups that actually are leaving Europe because of lack of financing. Not the research money, but actually the scale-up money. So the capital union in this, it's going to be really crucial to get and unlock the more risky capital from the private investments. And second, combine it really with the industrial policy that will also foster education, that will bring in the talent and look at it from European scale. So for me, it's not about now comparing who has more emissions, but who can make more prosperity and more profit from it, because this is the global trend. Even in China, this is the trend and where the investments go. In oil-rich UEA, it's the trend, because this is something where the future is. And we should not now start lagging behind, because it's going to be for our own fault.
Couldn't agree more. Petr, anything to add?
It's very difficult to continue for the Martin, because Martin said everything. The last year, the Chinese produce less emissions with the increasing amount of the energy that they produced. The peak is already done from the Chinese side. The second one, the Chinese invest twice more money for the decarbonization technology or the green innovation than the EU themselves. It's about the technology, about the strategic investments, about it's not only about the question in the EU themselves, it's about the competitiveness. Yeah? And if we don't invest more in green transition and the decarbonization, the Chinese production with the green technologies will be cheaper for the EU market and the others market than our product will be.
Our even polluting production, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that will be impossible to compete with.
Cristian, I would handpick a question for you from Slido, if you can get it up. How can we decentralize the energy supply chain while ensuring its effective energy integration across Europe? I think what was meant that how can we decentralize the energy supply chain while we are creating an integrated energy network in Europe?
Well, it's not easy at all to make both, but clearly here we need a coordinated approach, and also we need to see what each country, each member state can provide, can contribute to the European Union mix. There is also another question which is extremely important, which is the target of 2030. You know, the package Fit for 55 that looked very ambitious. We are not very far from 2030. It's very obvious for me, at least, that without a strong push in investments, and here I totally agree that we are lagging behind, and the capital union, it's a big issue, but also the investment capacity of European Union, it's an issue. Actually, it's one of the problems that also Draghi report highlighted.
Yes.
Because the situation is different than United States, the different mentality, different possibilities, different approach. Capital venture funds, investment funds are much more developed there. It's a different approach than China, because China is heavily investing public money, but also subsidize, not in an open way, some of the production and some of the initiatives that they are doing. In Europe, the situation is a little bit more difficult. And this decentralization also of the supply chain is linked very much with the capacity of investing. So if we'll find the necessary funds in order to conclude the projects in the energy sector, but not only in the industrial sector, almost everywhere, then Fit for 55 and 55% in 2030, it's reachable. Otherwise, it's not easy. And the most difficult part will come after 2030, because to 100%, to the net zero, to the total decarbonization in 2050, today we don't have the whole instruments. We need to innovate more. We need to have to mature many of the now research projects in order to be able to reach Green Deal target.
Cristian, you referenced 2030 several times. Let's highlight that question, because we will go with that after Mr. Balalaa, whom I would like to ask you that you are here in Prague. How do you see Emirates can contribute to European energy security via energy supply, technology transfer, knowledge transfer? How do you see your country's role in the European energy mix?
I think there is a lot going on between the UAE and the EU and Europe. Today we have, let me start with renewables, for example. Today we have a gigantic portfolio, over 50 gigawatts globally. Approximately 30% of that portfolio is only in Europe. And there is also doubling that amount on the pipeline and under discussion and assessment today with European countries. So today we exist in the Mediterranean, we exist in the North Sea, we're all over Europe, in approximately 10 countries, if I'm not mistaken. But we have all the intention to take this forward. Second thing comes to mind is interconnections. Today, the UAE plays a significant role in connecting North Africa into the Europe, and there is a lot under discussion. But not only that, in January 2025, we've signed an agreement with Albania and Italy to connect Albania, the subsea cable connects Albania to Italy and supply renewable energy from Albania to Italy. So that's one of the live examples that we undertook at the beginning of 2025. Third things comes to mind I can speak about is LNG. Today, the UAE is expanding its LNG facilities, be it in Fujairah or in the western region of the UAE. 2023, the UAE have signed an agreement with Germany for 15 years supply of LNG, and we're looking at Europe as a growing market for supplying LNG, and that's so France, Netherlands are smaller portions, but there is more coming, and we anticipate to supply more. So these are like three immediate things that comes to mind. But when it comes to capacity building and transferring technology, the UAE have beaten a world record in tariff reduction twice. Today we work with very well-known, good, reputable financiers such as ERBD, such as the European Investment Bank, and there's a lot in the pipeline with them in terms of developing renewables and interconnections cabling.
Thank you. That's very encouraging, by the way, that all the projects that you cited. I would like to make this question binary, go through the speakers and just a yes or no answer. Is EU really ready to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030? May I, apologies from whoever asked the question, but let me a bit reframe it. Will the EU reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 by 50%? Yes or no? Pavel?
Well, I just saw the predictions that the target of 2030 is achievable.
And you believe in it? You think yes?
I think yes. I think the big discussion about 2040 and 2050.
So you agree with Cristian in that one. Petr?
Yeah, in Czechia we reduce more than 50%. The whole EU can be achievable.
Martin?
Actually, the target is 55 net, so this is 57.5 or something else, 57.3. Honestly, I think we'll overshoot it. I think it's going to be bigger than we think.
Brilliant. Cristian?
Yes, but with some conditions, and indeed,
but yes.
The target is 55. We are fit for 55 in 2030 with some conditions.
It was a tricky question. Mr. Balalaa?
I think that can be achieved.
How great to end on this note, right? We have a really optimistic panel and realistic panel, and we all believe that we are going to not even meet, but overachieve the targets. So before I thank the panelists, please everybody stay seated, because we will get our MC on stage, whom I am calling on stage, to give us the instructions for the dinner. And now thank the panelists for this debate, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Are we on? Okay, testing 1, 2. I'm just going to talk to you. Optimistic and realistic, I like this. I think this has been the tone for GLOBSEC today. This morning we had, of course, a huge range of topics, and we started with looking at EU defence investment, strengthening ties with the Global South, the AI revolution, and we've talked about propaganda alliances. And of course, we had our keynote speech with Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelensky, and we had an audio problem then too. Now, I've been asked all day, was it Russian interference? Was it an AI attack? Guys, you know what to believe when they say you have a choice between a conspiracy and a mistake. It was just the latter. But it was a great talk by President Zelensky. I think one of the standout quotes for me was when he said, we're all in this war, and if Ukraine fails, Putin will go further. I think that was a very sober reminder of what's at stake. President Pavel also was here on the stage this morning. his standout quote for me was that the new US administration has certainly unsettled transatlantic relations. Europe now has to face questions it cannot postpone anymore. I think that goes to the theme of GLOBSEC 2025. And then he said, but we must not decouple from our American allies. So there was a lot to consider today. Day one was stellar, day two, maybe even better. Before that, though, we've got a wonderful dinner tonight. For those of you who have your invitations to Prague Castle, buses will be leaving soon. 19:10, so 7:10, 7:20 and 7:30. Please make sure you get on one. And yes, if you need to do a quick wardrobe change, now's the time. Tomorrow we begin bright and early back here on the Havel stage. We'll have opening remarks with the Czech Foreign Minister Jan Lipavsky, and of course, another massive day of sessions and side panels. Thank you very much for attending day one. Have a wonderful evening and see you tomorrow.